Okay. My name is Addison. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, guys. What an honor and privilege it is to be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, leading the meeting, especially this meeting, because this meeting is my favorite meeting I've ever attended in 12 years. It's my home group. It still is my home group. And I just want to welcome Josh, Alex. Welcome home, guys. Billy, Eric, Scott, Alex, Mike. Happy birthday. And welcome to all our visitors on Zoom. So I got 15 minutes to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today, and that's not enough time, because 15 minutes to talk about what it's like. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to alienate or depress any newcomers into going home and thinking, what the fuck was that? I don't believe I have the power to get someone sober, but I believe leaders and speakers do have the power to fuck up newcomers. Okay, and so I really care about the quality of when I do carry the message. Am I carrying the message or carrying the mess? And I really hope tonight I can carry the message. I was at the store, I was at Trader Joe's getting tonight's dinner for my nephew, and I was with my wife, and we were getting gingerbread houses, and we're really in the festive spirit of Christmas. And I get a call from Patch, and he's like, "Can you lead the meeting?" I was like, "Fuck yeah," And so thanks a lot for asking me to do this. My sobriety date is November 30th, 2009. A lot of you guys saw me walk in, and a lot of you guys saw me walk out and walk back in. A lot of us come in on court cards, wife cards, whatever. I came in on a dad card. My dad was in AA, and I had run out of options. I had a restraining order. Guilt, shame, remorse, and a really big fourth step, and I had nothing going on when I got out of rehab, and the only place I had to stay at was my dad's house. And so the deal was to stay sober and go to meetings with him, and I'm like, fuck, all right, fine, and like Mike was saying, happy birthday again, Mike. I didn't want this, I caught alcoholism in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, if that makes sense. I would go to meetings and I would smoke the cigarette butts in the ashtrays at Temple City Lana Club. I would sneak in late and sneak out early. I really did not want to be here. It was so painful to come in and think I can't drink for the rest of my life. That was the only solution I ever had for life. I believe I have a spiritual malady, like the doctor's opinion talks about, a disconnect from a higher power, where I have the inability to control how much I drink. I have the inability of who, what, when, where, how, and why I drink. Who I drink with, how much I drink, when I drink, where I drink. And if and when I'll ever stop. And when I try and do stop, the problem there is not that when I put the drink away, my problems go away. The problem is when I put the drink away, my problems get worse. Right? I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, without that ease and comfort of that first drink that I see other people drink with impunity, and I'm like, fuck them, I was just so bitter all the time, just so mad. Like, everyone grew up and went to college and got jobs and careers and a family, and I was party boy. I went to a party at 15, and I didn't leave till I was 30. But I mean, the party was over a long time ago. So because of that lack of power that's talked about in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, this book right here. The solution to the dilemma of alcoholism is in this book. I hope, and if you're new and you don't have a sponsor, I hope you find a sponsor that knows what's in this book and can help interpret for you and break down what this book is about. So I have that spiritual malady and that disconnect from a higher power, and a lot of stuff happened to me. And the only thing I really found power in, other than chaos and dysfunction and things like that and hurting people, was alcohol. I loved the effect. I drank for the effect. The book talks about that. I didn't drink because there was a social event or like a Christmas party and it was just something to do. No, people ask me sometimes, what was your trigger? Breathing. If I was conscious, I needed a drink. Sylvia Kay in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, not in this is the study version, but right here, I believe it's page 593. If I'm wrong, someone correct me, because it's important. The last line in the first paragraph of her story, Keys to the Kingdom, she said, and I quote, "Consciousness became intolerable." And Bill on page 8, he says, no words can tell the loneliness and despair I found, that bitter morass of self-pity, quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. If you can identify and relate with that and you're new, welcome home. You are one of us. So what was it like? On page 52, we agnostics in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am a big book thumper, and I really don't find it to be a negative connotation or a label. I think it's kind of a badge of honor to really wholeheartedly believe in the message of Alcoholics Anonymous that is in this big book, and to share that with newcomers, old timers, in-betweeners, whoever. And it helps me remind me like where I was before I got sober, because I need the textbook to help me know what I suffer from and what my problem is. And the problem wasn't being molested when I was a kid. It wasn't my dad was a drunk and my mom was a drunk and I was neglected and abused, all this other stuff. It wasn't I was a Mensa kid and I hated school and I got kicked out of school and so I hated myself for getting kicked out of school and being smart. That's an oxymoron. The problem was me. This inability to control my drinking, and I didn't know what I was suffering from. Alcoholism. My story is this, on page 52. And I love this because I have a traumatic brain injury from 20 years ago, and I forget what it was like and how to tell that story sometimes. So this helps me tell my story. It's in the second paragraph, and it starts in line 2. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not a basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should see newsreels of lunar flight? The book was written in the 30s. What was happening in my life was detrimental. It was of utter importance that I get sober, but I didn't want to get sober. I wanted to waste away my life and just be a bum and just mooch off everyone. That was my goal in life, was to get loaded and stay loaded. So when I go to page 151 or 152, 151, the bottom of it, and it's in the chapter Vision for You. This is what was happening when I got out of rehab and when I kept coming in and out, and you guys were like, are you done yet? And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to jinx it. Right? Now and then a serious drinker being dry at the moment says, I don't miss it at all. I feel better, work better, having a better time. As ex-problem drinkers, we smile at such a sally. The book was written in the 30s. We know our friend is like a boy whistling in the dark to keep up his spirits. He fools himself. Inwardly, he would give anything to take half a dozen drinks and get away with them. He will presently try the old game again, for he isn't happy about his sobriety. He cannot picture life without alcohol. Someday he will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. Then he will know loneliness such as few do. He will be at the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. On November 29th of 2009, on Longden, there's a nursery right there, and the Eaton Canyon Wash runs parallel to it. I believe if I get on the fence and I do a head dive, I can end it all, right? And I was really motivated to do that. I had suicidal ideation like I've never experienced before. I got on that fence, I started trembling and shaking, and I saw my life flashed before me. And I kind of had tunnel vision, and I was thinking about people in my life. One in particular, and I'll get to him in a second, is my nephew Simon. I got down from that fence and I asked God for the first time ever, with an honest petition, not get me out of this, and I promise I won't do it again. In jail, come to, oh my God, what did I do? Did I kill anybody this time? Who did I hurt this time? And you go up again before the judge, please God, get me out of this, and I promise I won't do it again. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Let's make a deal, God, prayer. I honestly asked him for help, and I said, God, if you're there, please help me. I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do, and if you don't help me, I don't know if I can keep going, right? I went home and I watched a movie. My name is Bill W. I came into the program with a 9th grade reading level. Obviously, I went to school and I read a book after, right? But that's not important. I came in here, I hated reading. What do you mean it doesn't have pictures in it? Is there a Cliff Notes version? No? Fuck this place. Sorry, Pat. I'm sorry, Tom.
Something I haven't heard before.
Awesome. Well, let me talk about this one story now. I go home and I watch My Name is Bill W. I don't want to read your book, but I'll watch the movie. And Gary Sinise, Ebby, oh my God, I identified with him. James Woods, Bill, oh my God, I identified with him. James Gardner, Dr. Bob, I identified with him. And I kept laughing and crying. And my sister's just watching this, right? And I'm kind of a spectacle, I am a spectacle sometimes. I'm extra, I'm intense, I have borderline personality disorder. I'm one of those who suffer from grave emotional mental disorders, but I have the capacity to be honest with Tom and you guys and talk about it when it's appropriate. So I slammed my hand on the table and I'm like, I'm done. I finally said, I'm done. But I didn't swear off forever with or without a solemn oath like I did every Monday, only to start the process of the vicious cycle and the incomprehensible demoralization one more time. And how did I end up in jail again one more time? What happened was I surrendered. At the end of the movie, Bill puts his arm around a newcomer and just intimated that it was going to be okay. And I came into the room of Alcoholics Anonymous the next day, and that's pretty much the message I got that day was it was gonna be okay. If you're new and you don't want what you have, and you're willing to go to any length to get it, these Brandon's banners, these steps right here, okay, will save your ass. And they saved my ass time after time, and they did it again this year. Thank you, Tom. We've done the steps a couple of times now. If you don't want to feel the way you were feeling anymore, you don't have to if you don't want to. You don't have to keep going out there and doing it over and over and over again, wondering why it keeps happening. Insanity, right? I came into the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous just, having all the answers and singing the newcomer song, yeah, but I know. And in that moment, I didn't know shit. And I said the 2 hardest things I ever said in my life, hello and help. I was taught that men fix themselves. We pick ourselves up from the bootstraps. We rub dirt on it and walk it off. We shake it off. We tough it out. We don't cry. That meeting, I did all those things. I cried and I looked at the steps and I just thought, maybe if I give this thing a chance, I might stay. And I did a lot of praying and I went to a lot of meetings. And I remember in that meeting, the only thing I remember said is, it was Norma, Fred the painter's wife, and I didn't like her at all because I thought she didn't like me. That ego, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. So I'm like, man, I gotta, go through her to get a newcomer chip, just thinking about me. And then she gives me a newcomer chip, and I'm walking back to my seat, and she said, welcome home. And I sat down in my chair, and I think I exhaled for the first time. The next day I got a sponsor and I got into action. I didn't get into thinking, I didn't get into feeling, I didn't get into wondering or reading this book and then coming to a meeting and 2-stepping and pontificating about the solution. I didn't do any of that crap that I was doing in between rehab and my sobriety date. I got a sponsor and this is what happened. I had 60 or 90 days, and that traumatic brain injury that I told you that I suffered 20 years ago, some guys literally tried to kill me. And they pretty much did. I don't know how I made it. The doctors worked on me. They saved my life. And I was also molested. The 2 guys the guy that molested me and one of the guys that tried to kill me both walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, the same meeting at the Temple City Lano Club. And I was forced with those 2 options someone mentioned. It was either keep drinking and just bleeding out my consciousness to the bitter end, or I pick up the tools and I get spiritual help. And I did my 4th step in like a few days, and I did my 5th step. And I remember my sponsor did what Bill did in that movie. He put his arm around me and he said, "I love you." And I remember after doing that, I walked to my car, and there was this Ford Aspire, this alcoholic bucket, beat up car, and I was embarrassed by it. I would drive that car today. And I remember I would park a couple parking lots away from my work because I was so embarrassed by it. My manager saw me one day and was laughing. Look at that car. It was purple. A Viking fan, go figure. And someone smudged the word loser into the windshield. And I looked at it and I started laughing. It was the first time in my life I did not feel like a loser. I felt like I joined the Winners Club. And we talk about that sometimes, like join the Winners Club. Those that walk the walk, not those that talk the talk, right? So that's what happened is I was put in this position of forced honesty. I didn't want to do the steps, but I looked at the steps as essential to survival, right? I was driven into AA under the lash of alcoholism. I was being tortured by it. And I believed that the only thing that could save my life were these steps. And I found that higher power that I've been seeking at the bottom of a bottle for so many years. I did the steps. I had that spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. And I got a lot of commitments. The best commitment I ever had was secretarying this meeting. I loved going out and putting in the work and finding leaders and speakers speakers, whatever. And I loved doing that. I would go to meetings like in Orange County, San Marino, Santa Monica, and I would hear these great shares and I'd be like, "Come to our meeting." Newcomers, I would bring them to this meeting. This is the meeting right here. Thank you, Alcoholics Anonymous and Sicker Than Most, for saving my life, and what my life is like today is, let me just tell you about what I try and do in a day. There are a couple of stats that are included in what has occurred in the last 12 years. Is this year I got married, I got my master's, and I did some step work again. So I'm going to mention this right here. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. I'm almost done, Patch. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed in a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Today I woke up in the morning and I thought about how I'm going to get my nephew to school, get my dog to doggy daycare, clean the house, do my work at the VA, who I'm going to call Tom, check in with other guys, and then what we're going to do for dinner. And I've cried a lot today because that nephew of mine that I thought of is living with me now. He's having a really big crisis. He might be one of us. Of all people in the family, he's with me. I got sober for that kid, and I stay sober for and I got sober for myself. Of course, right? And I did a fear inventory. And my biggest fear this year was dying. Okay, I've been given a couple of diagnoses for these conditions that I live with, and I'm really I was scared of dying, right? And this kid's biggest fear is dying. Of all people that he gets to live with now, and it's temporary. We're going to see if we adopt him. We're talking about that, but of all people, he's with me, and so I have purpose today. That's what it's like today. I have purpose. I have friends. I have family that wants me in their house, who calls me when shit hits the fan, Tom became my sponsor when my niece Charlotte passed away, Bill Calso's granddaughter. My sponsor at the time wasn't picking up the phone, and I kept telling him in the voicemails, I need to do the steps because I don't want to drink. And Tom took me through the steps again. I got to do graveside amends this year because I've been so scared of dying. I don't want to do the graveside amends, and I got to do that this year. we have a lot of laughs and a lot of cries in sobriety, you know, and my laughs and cries are without a doubt the things that I've dreamt of having. You know, they talk about life beyond your wildest dreams, and I'll end with this. The life that was beyond my wildest dreams is living life without alcohol and just enjoying it. That's all I ever wanted, was to just enjoy my life without having to drink, right? And so I've been given the keys to the kingdom, guys. You know, I've been given a higher power, a fellowship of friends, a beautiful wife, and a situation right now that I'm thriving in and succeeding in because God is in my life every day, you know. So if you're new, again, welcome home. Thank you again for having me do this. And I love you guys. I love this meeting, and I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love being sober. Thank you.